Well, hello, everybody, and welcome back to this week's episode of the Ripple Effect podcast. We are so glad that you have joined us, whether you're watching this or listening to this. We are grateful for the opportunity to be together. As always, this is a podcast that just shares some behind-the-scenes stuff here at Timberlake Christian Church, but also lets you know about stuff that's coming up and gives us a chance to highlight some individuals in our congregation or in our community that are doing some pretty great things. So, with that in mind, we want to welcome you today. Before we get going, we want to let you know of the sponsor of the week. Last week we didn't have one, and we've got one this week. The sponsor of the week today is plants. It is summertime, and it is the time to start. Well, is summer officially started?
No.
Summer has not officially started. It's springtime still. It's time to get out. Get your plants in. Some of you like to garden, but we specifically wanted to say this because there are some lovely pots that are at the front of the church, and they are some beautiful flowers and plants that are there, and we wanted to give a quick shout out to the lady who did all that. Brian, give her a shout out.
Well, so last year, Diane Thornburg came and she's like, I think she said she was walking or driving around town and saw that all the other churches in town put us to shame with their pots and things in front of their building. And she's like, so would I be allowed to do that? And we're like, Absolutely. We can give you some money, to make it happen, which I know that she's invested some in that too. But we've given her a little bit of budget to work with. And, man, it's awesome. What she put in out front last week was great.
So Diane, thank you so much. If you see her or know her, give her a little shout out. Tell her thank you because it looks so beautiful, and we hope you're enjoying getting out there and get your hands dirty and putting some vegetables or plants or whatever you do in the ground. Okay, we want to recap this past Sunday. This past Sunday, we had a great morning, and we talked about the final installment of the Come and See series about Jesus' transfiguration. And Brian, how was your Sunday? Was it good?
Yeah, went really well. All the worship team had one of those where we couldn't all practice together. It was kind of two different practices, but everything with my department.
Tell you what.
Well, and first hour, we didn't even have a slide person for the very beginning, and I didn't even know it. It was still pretty smooth.
Went smooth.
Alan Wilson stepped in and made, he's multi-talented, so he ran two things at once, and I had no idea till between the hours, or I think after the morning was over, that there'd been a hiccup there. So we put in new speakers, a few weeks ago, changed a bunch of lighting stuff.
It has been working.
Thankfully, a lot of those headaches went away with tech problems we'd been having.
That's good.
So,
well, Brian's here in the studio with us. Also, Ed Lewis is here in the studio with us. Make sure you give him a big round of applause. Ed, how was your Sunday?
The applause is deafening. I can't.
It's so loud.
I can't. So it was a great Sunday. I mean, really enjoyed the church service, and I think the altar call that you did was well received. And I think it's something that we always have to remember that it all comes down to the decisions people make about Christ, and that was great. And we were finishing up a series in our adult Sunday school class that meets right after that, and we'd been studying Mark for about 30 weeks, so we've had a long series in Mark. And as we were going through there's a lot of it that's at the very end of Mark. You can see the shift to the new kingdom, the kingdom of heaven, and the old covenant passing away and the new covenant beginning, and culminating with that at the evening when Christ is there with the Last Supper with his disciples. And that's what we're going to do the next 2 weeks. I'm going to be speaking at our class, a Sunday school class that meets at 10:30. I'll be doing one more week on that, and then Lloyd's going to finish up. We're kind of tag teaming this one about the old covenant, new covenant.
Wow.
And so Lloyd Pelfrey's going to finish us up. I think we'll finish in 2 weeks with that, and then we'll move back into another Bible book after that.
So for those of you who don't know, Ed teaches our adult Sunday school class, which meets during the second hour, and has been doing that for a little while. It's a great class, and if you don't have a Sunday school class or a Bible group that you're a part of, it's one to go to. You come first hour church, and then you can go to this class. It's amazing. I had the privilege of baptizing my daughter on Sunday. Did you know
Yes,
that?
I did know that. I heard
Yeah,
that.
yeah. So
That's so cool.
that was great, and we celebrated the way all good Midwestern people should celebrate, and that's with Casey's Pizza. I told my wife, I said, this is a very Midwest thing to
See, I
do.
thought maybe it'd be ice cream.
Well, we should have done that. Well, I think we had ice cream, but we already had that at the house.
Yeah, okay.
But it was quite the day, and we'll have to do a whole nother podcast on it. This is the first child for me to baptize, and I think it was harder for me to get to the place where I'm like letting her make her own decision, because I want to make sure she does it just right, and I was almost hindering her decision rather than helping.
Yeah.
And so we'll have to have a whole nother podcast on that, but we don't need to do that right now. So anyway, if you missed anything, if you missed the service, we'd encourage you to go to tlcc.church. You can watch the service. You can see the music and the sermon and everything there at tlcc.church. If you click on sermons, it's there for you. All right, we want to give you a quick top three before we talk with Ed and get to our spotlight of the week. The first top three that you need to know about is some upcoming middle school events. Brian, you know more about this than me. Why don't you take this?
Yeah, so tomorrow, Wednesday night, is these are called Connect events. We should have had Rachel here to talk about this, but I think I know enough about them to announce it. Yeah. Wednesday night is a Connect event for middle school. Thursday night is high school. And so the purpose of it is those who are coming into those age groups. We're almost to that time of year when we promote one grade to the next, and there's these students that move up to middle school, and then so in the middle schoolers who are becoming high schoolers, and so they're moving up into that age group. They are to help them acclimate, get to know their peers, and so I think it's great the way that she's put it out on the Band app. To those of us that are parents of that age group, is just that it's for Wednesday night is for current middle schoolers or those who are moving up. So it would be Mary's fifth graders, I guess, that are moving up. And then the Thursday night one would be for current high schoolers or those who are moving out of, I guess, 8th and 9th. Mm-hmm. So two separate events. And again, if you're a parent or grandparent or guardian of one of those kids, I think it's probably one of the most important events as they are moving up to feel comfortable with the new group that they're becoming a part of.
Yeah,
so
that's great.
That's the first one.
So that's the first announcement for Wednesday night for the middle schoolers, Thursday night for high schoolers. The second thing we want you to know about is the community kitchen is happening Wednesday. Brian talked about this on Sunday, but we sponsor a community kitchen event, which is downtown Moberly. And they've got help and they've got enough people to cover, but if you're interested in participating or you just want to go and see what it's all about, it's a great opportunity just to have some FaceTime with people in the community, to meet some different people who need encouragement, need connection with other people. When I first started going to the community kitchen, I thought it was just about people who didn't have food. A lot of it is people who don't have people around them, and giving them an opportunity to eat with other people. So it's a great event, and if you are interested in that, contact us at the office, and we can get you connected with the right people. And the last thing is just a office thing to let you know about. Memorial Weekend, which is coming up, the offices will be closed on Monday, and I will be sleeping in all day. All day, Ed.
Okay, I don't believe
with my children, 6 children.
I don't believe it. I believe you'll be up fairly early.
I will be. All right, so today, for the Spotlight of the Week, we have Ed Lewis with us. Ed Lewis is an elder here at Timberlake Christian Church, and he has been an elder for the last 2 years?
No, it's been a little while.
More now.
More than that now? Oh, my goodness.
6 years, 7 years.
What? No.
Yeah.
No. Well, when were you an elder before I got here? Did you come back on?
How long
No.
have you been here?
I've been here 5 years.
It probably has been like 4.
It's got to be at least...
It was after he came.
It's after I came here you came on. I know that much, and I've been
Good.
here 5.5 years. So it's maybe a 5.
Mm-hmm.
All right, people, we got to get our facts straight before we start talking about it. You've been an elder here for a while.
For a while, yeah.
For a while. You are a retired high school teacher.
Yes.
At Moberly High School, and you also taught for Central Christian College of the Bible for a little while. And you are currently a state representative for Missouri. And what district are you state representative for?
I'm represented for District 6, which is almost all of Randolph County. Not all, but almost all, and all of Macon County.
Awesome. Tell us a little bit about yourself. If you could, I like to do this thing where you've got 30 seconds to tell someone that doesn't know you, tell them about yourself. All right, so I'm gonna time you.
30 seconds.
You got 30 seconds. What are you hit the highlights? You hit whatever you want to hit. What do you want to let someone know about you in 30 seconds? Are you ready? Go.
All right, I'm married, have 4 kids, and all of them are married, and I have 6 grandchildren. I've been teaching forever. They're taught for 32 years in public school and still teach. I love to golf, and I like all sports really. Tennis, basketball, volleyball, golf,
15
pickleball.
seconds.
I like to garden as well, and I like plants.
Yeah.
Just like you know.
5.
What else did I not say? Obviously, I'm a Christian and elder here at the church.
Okay.
I gave you 35 seconds.
Oh, well, you said 30.
I know, but I just you're doing so well.
Okay.
So those are a couple facts about you. We wanted to bring you on because you have a unique perspective about the church being an elder. And you also have a unique job that not everybody has, being a representative for the state of Missouri. So first, let's talk about being an elder. What do you think is one of the more important things about the role you serve as an elder? What's one of the more important things that you do as an elder for the congregation? And then just the role in general, why is it important for the church?
Well, I think each elder, I think, is kind of different and unique. I mean, if you look at each one of us have strengths and weaknesses. And, some elders are more apt to teach and or do that more. And I'm one of those that, I can't remember the last time that I wasn't teaching.
Mm-hmm.
I think I've taught either in high school, we've had students in our class. I've taught the adult class. I've taught high school classes, even some of the little kids at times at camp. And so that's just part of me. I've always been a teacher. And I think elders are supposed to be that. They're supposed to be people who focus on the Bible and are able to share that with others. But also, I think we, as elders, our job is to kind of protect the flock and shepherd the flock, and each one of us have different people that we are closer to. And as 30 years ago, I wasn't an elder then, but my focus was on much younger people, and 20 years ago.
What happened to everybody else? I don't know. They're getting older.
I think I've gotten older. As I've gotten older, my perspective has shifted to, I think that's natural. I think it's a natural tendency that your focus shifts from the younger people. Although, my grandchildren and even children today, I think of that's a very, very important aspect of what the message that I give whenever I'm talking is that the greatest mission field is at home with your children and with your grandchildren. Because if you aren't successful sharing the gospel with your children and grandchildren, then you're not really. The rest of it is secondary to that, or should be. Yeah. And it's true for ministers. Sometimes ministers overlook their own children. Not you. You've got a child that you've already got there. That's right. And those, I remember those times for each of my children as well. And now focused on their spouses and on my grandchildren. That's a very important part of my life now. And with the Sunday school class, we have any Sunday we'll have between 40 and 50 members in the Sunday school class, and a lot of them are my age or even a little older, and so their focus is on children and grandchildren, not on so much a mission overseas, although that's very important. Their focus is on their children and grandchildren. I think that's very important.
For those of you who don't know how we are structured here at Timberlake, we use a phrase, we're staff-led, elder-governed. We have staff that lead things at the church, and I preach, and Brian preaches, and we have staff that lead certain things. But overall, when we see in Scripture, elders govern the congregation. They're the shepherds of the flock. And so I like to call them my boss. But they're the ones that make sure that hold us accountable, and also give us guidance and wisdom as we lead. As you think about the role of the elder for a healthy congregation, we know teaching and prayer and encouragement are so important. Why does a congregation need elders to help guide them, do you think?
Well, I think it's biblical. I think if you just look at the scriptures there, even when, Paul was writing back to the churches, he says, talking to Timothy, he says, make sure that you plant elders there. Put, you choose people who are full of faith and wisdom so that, we don't blow along with every wind of doctrine that comes along. I think that's part of our job, is to make sure that we test everything with Scripture and say, well, is this scriptural? I mean, there's some things that Scripture doesn't talk about, but if it does, if the Scripture talks about it, then it's our job to make sure that we stay as close as we can to the New Testament Scriptures, and knowing that we came out of the Old Testament as well, and that those are there for our guidance as well. But it's important. That's when we have questions, or is this biblical? Where do we want to go? Those things we go. We go to the Scriptures and we look at those, and we've done several things like that here at the church, and just in the 4 or 5 years I've been an elder.
5 or 6?
I think it's at least 5.
It's got to be. Yeah, it's got to be. All right. So you, as a state representative, you have taken on this task, and you've been there for how long now?
Well, I've completed 3 sessions. I'm in my 2nd term. So for representatives, it's 2-year terms. So I mean, you're elected, and a year later you're running again. So this is the off year. I don't really. You don't have to do a lot of. Hopefully, don't do a lot of campaigning this session this year. But
well, the big question I have is why. Why you're a science high school teacher, right? You're a follower of Jesus. You are active in your church. Why go even through the hassle of trying to get involved in politics? And what do you say to someone that says, church and politics shouldn't mix?
Yeah. Well, I think that
I know those are 2 loaded questions.
Down through the ages, church and politics have always mixed. Actually, and I think when our nation was founded, they definitely wanted to influence the way that they were governed.
Sure.
You can't read any of the original founders' documents without seeing they wanted the biblical principles to be enshrined in our Constitution, in the way we do things. And so I think that's, I don't think that they should not mix. When I look at the why was kind of a difficult thing for me. I was very happy teaching, and I wanted to teach a couple more years. I'd done 32 years, but I could have done a couple more easily, and actually missed teaching. But the current representative for our state was term limited out. His name was Tim Remley, and when I heard that he was term limited out, I was always kind of interested in politics, and not interested in what it would be like to to be a representative, or that I'd had Tim come to my class several times in my science class, speaking on energy policy, because he was part of the energy board, and so I had him come, and so I was familiar when he was term limited, and I really wanted to make Tim was a good Christian, is a good Christian man, and was a good Christian representative for our district, and would vote based on his biblical values, and I think that's important, and I wanted that, and I found that there was no one necessarily that was going to run for that had those same values that Tim had, and I wanted to make sure that we kept that our representation for Randolph and Macon County um, as a Christian that was going to base their decisions on biblical principles and try to be someone that you could trust. That was always going to make decisions from that viewpoint, and so that was
That's kind of a burden almost.
When I met with Tim before I decided to run, we went to his church and we knelt and prayed for 20 to 30 minutes, and we talked about it. And when we were done with that, I was confident. I wasn't sure I was going to run until that point, and that was when I decided, yes, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to make sure that I always represent the people of Randolph and Macon County as a Christian ought to. And sometimes you have to vote on things, and people say, "Why did you vote this way?" And it's some of them there's no cut and dried things, and some there are. They're just like, okay, I this is a moral position. I've got to vote this way. There is no other choice. And but on others, there's a lot of issues aren't like that, and some of them there are. And so those things come up. And really, I think the bigger issue is just interacting with all the other people, and being true to your word, being someone that represents Christ well down at the Capitol. I think that's very, very important to me. And there are many, I would say, there's a good number of other Christian representatives. We meet for Bible study every Tuesday morning during session, and there's at least 20 to 25 of us that come regularly, and I think all those are the people that you see there. Many of them are living out their faith, just like I am trying to.
Yeah, I've got 2 questions left, but before I do you have any questions?
Oh, you're the question asker. No. You better just go on.
All right. Well,
I wasn't thinking.
I know. I'm sorry. I sprung it on you.
I was thinking about what to say at the end.
Okay. All right. So this one, I got a funny, silly one, and a more serious one. Should we end on a silly note?
Sure.
All right. Let's ask the serious one. You do a really good job of not being a politician when you're an elder. And when you said that you were going to run, the first thing I imagined was you passing out flyers with your face on it everywhere in the church, and we don't really do that here. We don't allow people to campaign here.
No.
But through the 5 or 6 years, 4 or 5 years that you've done this, you do an amazing job of walking. It's not really even a line for you, I don't think, where this is my job. But when I'm here at the church, I am a shepherd, I am a leader, I am an elder, and I do get to do this as a job. Have you ever found moments where those two things collide? How do you walk that line with grace? That's the way I see you doing it.
Well, most of the time, I don't think it's a problem. When people will ask you questions, I was out at Walmart just an hour ago, and 2 people stopped me and asked me questions and talked to me about policy issues,
bills and things.
Yeah, and that happens all the time now. I mean, it doesn't matter whether you're at the gas station, you're at the grocery store, you're at Walmart, you're standing out mowing your grass or weed eating. So that happens, and it happens at church too. But I mean, people come up. But in my, trying to, like when I'm teaching, trying to make sure that I don't, cross the line and say, bring politics into it. I mean, there's nothing wrong with talking about things that are occurring, but making sure that you're not trying to, indoctrinate someone or push someone one way or the other.
Right.
Trying to keep, I don't, you would, obviously I'm a pretty conservative guy, but, other than, you shouldn't be able to know that other than just the way I live, not by,
forcing
saying you're a Republican or a Democrat or anything like that. Just, things come up, you try to, if I'm teaching a Sunday school class, from time we stop to the time we someone may ask you a question, And every once in a while, you put a little humor in there because there's some funny things that happen, and you have to bring those up in life because some things are just funny. And but trying to do that without where anybody sitting in the class would be comfortable, whatever their political persuasion is, that they wouldn't feel uncomfortable. Yeah. And I mean, I don't know. Politics never, I don't think, really enter into the church in that, other than, I mean, people at church are supportive of me and stuff, but I don't.
I think the best way I could say it is and this is the way you've lived your life as far as I can see, is that your faith informs everything else you do. You don't start with your politics informs your teaching your faith, but your faith informs everything that you do.
There's some people, I think, who, when they became a politician, they decided to go to church.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And they suddenly became much more faithful. Mm-hmm. I don't know that there was any change in the things that I would do, other than the fact that I'm busier for 6 months of the year,
a certain period of time,
in a different and I'm not able to do some of the things that I normally do. Although I think it's never got in the way of teaching Sunday school class, because that's on a weekend, but
or XYZ
or any of those things. But sometimes during the week you're so busy you can't get to something that was going on during the week, and that's a hindrance. But that's mainly in the spring, and that's probably the biggest detriment where they collide, in that there's just there's sometimes you cannot be somewhere other than down at the Capitol.
All right, so for the fun question, what's the best perk of being a representative? Is there some sort of perk? Is there something cool that you get to experience that the average person wouldn't get to, that you can tell us about, that you wouldn't have to kill us if you tell us?
Well, when we take the oath, we're supposed to. One of the parts of it says, "And I will preserve the secrets of the house."
Oh.
Right? I still don't know what those secrets are. I
was hoping.
No, I'm not sure that there are any great secrets. I think when you have your representative tags on
your car,
right, and you're going towards the Capitol, the Highway Patrol is not supposed to stop you.
Oh,
they're not supposed to.
They're not supposed to. Have you tested that yet?
I'm not. Okay. Well, I can't. But
I can neither confirm nor deny.
Because there's a clause in the Constitution that says that a officer of the court or whatever shall not prevent you from going to your duties or carrying out your duties.
Right.
And that would be
But
I guess
like that.
having but that's also a detriment, because when you're driving with those tags, everybody knows that's your car.
Everybody knows who you are.
And it's like, hey, I saw the representative zipping down. I have an LA, my legislative assistant, who keeps my calendar and keeps me on track, and that's a real perk.
That's nice.
That's a real perk, but it doesn't interfere with anything. It just keeps me from going off the rails and skipping something. Like, he'll text me and say, "Hey, remember, you got this tonight, right? You got this event that you're supposed to do."
Yeah.
And I
was
afraid that you might have forgotten about it, or when I'm going in the morning, maybe I'm leaving Bible study here and heading down there. I'll get a text from him saying, "What time are you coming in? You've got a meeting at 9:30 or whatever." Yeah. So he keeps me on task, and that's a real perk. But that's one of the perks of the office. But other than that, I don't think there are.
Not too many.
No.
All right. I was hoping there'd be some secret meeting handshakes that we didn't know about.
No, I don't think. Maybe I'm on the outside of that loop.
It could be. Well, we're very grateful for you being here. We're grateful for the ministry that you do here. We know that you and Sarah, your wife, do so much to minister to people, to encourage people, and I know for me, I respect so much that you do. Almost as much as I respect your golf game. I respect that a little bit more. His short game is amazing. But we're really grateful for you being here today. If you have any questions, or just maybe haven't gotten a chance to get to know Ed a little bit better, take the time to. It's worth it, and we are blessed to have him and his wife here at Timberlake Christian Church. Okay, we just need to close out with the blessing of the week.
Yeah, and I just was gonna really tie it in with what we've been talking about. That this whole year as a church, we're focusing on um, being agents of hope in the world, and I believe just from the few little interactions that we've been observing what Ed does at the Capitol, that he does that well. Like we are. I totally agree with what Ed said. Like we're not supposed to isolate ourselves somehow from the public sphere as Christians. There's nothing wrong about us having an elder that's also a state rep or something like that. I mean, it could become wrong, I suppose, at some level, but Ed's very good to not, I guess, cross those boundaries or whatever. Um, but all of us, and talking about sort of our blessing of the week, or I always treat the blessing more as a challenge.
You do.
but I guess what I was thinking about with this is, that verse from First Peter that we one of them that we launched this year with about being, agents of hope, always being ready to give a defense for the hope that we have. I believe Ed does that at the Capitol, like being ready to defend it. Well, here's why my faith matters this much, and here's why I take this position, and doing it, in a loving way, but also being confident in that decision as well. And we should all do that. Like whatever your spot is in this world, wherever your job is, or whether you're a grandparent or a parent, or whatever your purpose is, just living that out to the best of your ability. And this is a good example of that, having Ed on here today, because he's done that as a teacher, done that as an elder, done that. Well, I don't golf, but I'm sure he does that when he's golfing.
I can neither confirm nor deny. No. Yes, he does. Yes, he does.
I'm just saying we all should not just be in that frame of mind on Sunday or when we're doing churchy things, but when we're just living out in the world, and that's where we can probably be the most effective. Is way more effective outside these walls than what I do here. Keeping the bank statement balanced and all the random things I do during the week. Probably it's like the interaction at Walmart, right? Mm-hmm. Somebody stops and says, "Oh, I know you from church," or "I have a question," whatever it is.
Yeah. So live out loud and be consistent in your character as you're bringing hope to people. That's good. Well, thank you for joining us here this week for this episode of the Ripple Effect Podcast. We hope that you have a great rest of the week, and we'll see you later. Bye.